What's going on? Another video over here at Fighter IQ, and the WBA and IBF junior middleweight champion Jarrett Hurd is quite annoyed at the moment with some of the trash talking going on from Kell Brook.
And a lot of people have been talking about it, man, saying that Jarrett Hurd would destroy Kell Brook. Now, me myself, I don't agree with that at all.
Jarrett Hurd has called for Kell Brook to back up his words and fight him. The WBA Super and IBF Super Welterweight champion wants to fight Brook before the end of the year in America.
Undefeated. Undefeated.
What up, everybody in the YTBC? Big shout out to hashtag Come At The Boxing. Big shout out to Boxing United. A big shout out to the A-Side boxing community, the MOBC, and the LDBC. So Jarrett Hurd is offering a title shot to Kell Brook. Now, I have to say, I'm liking what Jarrett Hurd is doing here. I don't mean just offering Kell Brook a shot at his titles, but just what he's doing with his career as a whole. I mean, this is a young man who, didn't really take the sport of boxing too seriously in the beginning. Had a wake-up call and decided that he was going to, hunker down and go ahead and take this thing seriously. And in only 22 fights has done quite well. I mean, it's not quite on the same level, but you could argue that he's doing something very similar to what Anthony Joshua has done. He's a unified champion. He doesn't have three belts, but he has two. And like I said, in only 22 fights and having the type of resume that he has, I'm not saying it's spectacular, but given where he's at in his career, it's not a bad path that he's taken. And then offering a title shot to Kell Brook is really just a good move. If he can get that fight with Kell Brook, if they can come to terms, I think that would be a great fight for Jarrett Hurd. That will only build upon his resume. It will only further his legacy. I mean, he already has a good win against Austin Trout. He has a good win over Erislandy Lara. And to get somebody like Kell Brook on his resume would be really good. And it's a good fight for Kell Brook as well. Kell Brook, he hasn't really established himself at 154 pounds, but given the fact that he was able to stand in there with Triple G and get the better of him for some rounds, I think that kind of gives me some confidence in his ability to fight Hurd. I'm not saying that he beats Hurd, but I think it would be a really good fight. And just the only thing that I would prefer is maybe if he were to take one more fight before he were to fight Hurd, if this fight were to happen. That would probably be preferable for Kell Brook. For the fans, it would be preferable for it to be next. But I do think that if Kell Brook were to play this smart, he would probably take another opponent at a higher level than Sergey, what was his name? Rubinsky, if I'm not mistaken. You know, that was a good introduction to the division. I just think he needs to fight somebody a little bit higher on the food chain when it comes to the 154-pound division before he takes on the likes of Jarrett Hurd. I think his chances will just be better. He would have more momentum because right now he's coming off of one win after 2 consecutive losses. Also, I do think that part of the reason why he didn't do so well against Spence is because he went up to 160 pounds and then goes right back down to, 147 pounds. I think that was a big mistake. I think he should have maybe taken 1 or 2 fights in between, but it is what it is. I'm not even sure he really had that option because Spence was his mandatory. Speaking of mandatories, Jarrett Hurd had actually defeated one of Kell Brook's previous mandatories, Jojo Dan. Now, that was probably a fight that shouldn't have happened. It did happen at 147 pounds, so don't get it twisted. It's not. That's not a fight that happened at 154 pounds, but that is one of Kell Brook's previous opponents, and a lot of people don't even know why he was Kell Brook's mandatory. But Kell Brook did defeat him. He was, if I'm not mistaken, his first or second title defense after winning the IBF title off of Sean Porter. And Jarrett Hurd had defeated him earlier in his career because Jojo Dan had moved up to 154 pounds. So, they have a common opponent. I think Hurd is being smart. If Hurd were to get that fight next, I would say that Hurd would win and he would have another good name on his resume. He's definitely building upon. And then if he could get the Charlo fight next, I think that would be spectacular. Because, like I said, I think Hurd beats Brook right now. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I'm hoping the fight happens next. And who knows, Brook, I'm not saying Brook absolutely can't beat Hurd. I just think if I was a betting man, I'd put my money on Hurd in that particular situation at this particular time. So, but it wouldn't surprise me if Brook were to somehow pull off a win against Hurd. But if Hurd were to beat Kell Brook and then take on Charlo next, because Charlo already has a fight coming up, so that fight obviously cannot happen next. But if it were to work that way, well then I think that will be a really good fight. And if he can manage to beat Charlo, I mean, Hurd is really making a statement. And he's really solidifying, what a lot of people are doing, which is putting him in the pound-for-pound ranks. And even though I've said it before, pound for pound is completely subjective, there are some objective elements that you can use for your pound for pound ranking. Like I said, most of these people on YouTube, they have a pound for pound list that's completely just off the eye test. But if you were to set some criteria, and those criteria are reasonable, you could definitely make an argument for Hurd being pound for pound, even right now. But definitely if he were to beat Brook and then beat Charlo next, I mean, he's only elevating with each opponent. And at that point, he should definitely go for undisputed if he were to beat Charlo. If Charlo were to beat him, of course, maybe he should go ahead and try for undisputed. And when I say maybe, I mean definitely. So, that being said, you know, or maybe even better, if it's a really good fight, we might get a rematch out of it. I don't really understand a lot of these fans who don't like rematches, but I don't really see a problem with rematches. The only problem that really there is with rematches right now is because a lot of these fighters are just not very active. You know, seeing them fight the same fighter more than once becomes frustrating, because you're like, well, he could have been fighting somebody else and he's not fighting again till next year. But other than that, I don't really see why fans are really against rematches. I mean, Manny Pacquiao gets criticized for it all the time because he has so many of them. But Manny Pacquiao, when he was doing a lot of these rematches, was also fairly active as well. So, I'm not going to say he was really active, but he was definitely, you know, a little bit more active than what we see a lot of these fighters do today. But anyways, those are my thoughts. I think Jarrett Hurd is really taking the right path on building his legacy. Y'all let me know what y'all think. So all my subscribers, anybody watching my videos, or if you just so happen to stumble on this video, hope you have a wonderful and blessed day. Peace.
Undefeated.